Alright, before we get into the video, I want to say thank you to everyone that supported the last video. That's some of the best support I've ever had in my channel, hands down, period. So again, if you just want to continue to support, liking, commenting, and adding to discussion is the best way to do it so YouTube can understand that I exist. Alrighty, I'm stop talking and get to the video. Bye-bye. So Dispatch has been out for a while, and I've been wanting to make a video on Dispatch because I have not had a video game, and I don't know how long that has came out and had me thinking about it in this way. Like, all I could think about is Dispatch. I'm gonna be honest, like, Dispatch. I've been watching all the interviews. I've been obsessed with just the creation of the game, the story behind it. It was an independent game created by Ad Hoc Studios, who were made up from a lot of ex-Telltale employees, and they ended up boarding Ad Hoc Studios, and now they created their launch game Dispatch, which is potentially one of the best indie launches I've ever seen, period. Like, it's insane. It's already sold millions of copies. It's going to continue to sell more, and it's been the global talk of the town, at least in the gaming scene. For me personally, I can't get past anything Dispatch. It's just all Dispatch memes, Dispatch lore, Dispatch behind the scenes, the creation of Dispatch videos, interviews, all of it, you name it. It's just all stuck on my feed. And honestly, I'm not upset because I am obsessed with this game. And I know sadly I'm late to the party, but unfortunately that's just the way the cookie crumbles when this isn't your full-time job. But regardless, I knew I had to make a video about Dispatch because I want a little bit of a piece of history for myself that I made a Dispatch video that I can reference every now and then because I love this game.
You gotta move on. You gotta move on.
But ultimately, when I was thinking about Dispatch, there was only one topic that came to my mind. See, Dispatch is a choice-based game, so that's where the conversation's gonna head. What were the decisions you made? What was the story you created? Everybody's gonna talk about why this choice was better, why this choice was worse, why this story is better for Robert, why this story is worse for Robert, why this is the canon ending, why this is the canon choice. But at the end of it all, it always comes down to one question. The question that's got me literally feeling like a preteen in 09 talking about Edward and Jacob. Invisigal or Blonde Blazer? And I provide this video today to bring the ultimate answer to that question. Both. Oh, well, I can't have both? Okay, well then I bring my justification for why I think this is ultimately the best choice for the story of Dispatch. Not the answer, the definitive answer, just my opinion. Again, this is just my opinion, and I want to know y'all's opinion and what you guys ultimately think is the best romance path for Robert Robertson in Dispatch. But if I were to culminate after seeing the different path lines between Blonde Blazer and Invisigal, what I think is the best option and the one that I would choose ultimately would come down to Invisigal. And the reason I make this video is because I notice when you go down the Invisigal pathline, there tends to be a little bit more criticism to that pathline, as opposed to Blonde Blazer just being, to most people, an easily understood pick. And it's funny because when it's all said and done, she definitely is the winner in terms of seemingly the majority pick of who everyone chooses by the end of the game. But I notice usually when you mention Invisigal was the path you went down, usually a lot of people like to know a little bit more about it, or they make the jokes that you have to make a justification as for why you chose Invisigal. So I guess I'm feeding into the stereotype and doing it myself. But you know what? I really don't care because this game has got me talking like no other game has in a long ass time. So any excuse to talk about it is fine by me. And yes, I know the first thing you're gonna say is episode 4 changed my mind, and that's why I'm saying Invisigal. And that is not 100% true. It's only about like 70% true.
Bruh.
You gonna eat those Twinks?
No, but for real though, I think Invisigal ultimately comes down to just that I think it is the best for the story, and that's what I bring this video here to talk about today, why I think Invisigal is the best choice and romance path in Dispatch.
All I wanted from this was for you to look at me the same way you look at Blazer. Even if it was just once, you know? That'd have been enough.
You see, Ad Hoc Studios created an interesting dynamic when it came to choosing between Blonde Blazer and Invisigal because they almost represent two opposite ends of how media usually treats romances in media, and that is the love at first sight and the slow burn. The expectations versus reality, the oh she's perfect girl to the oh I can fix her girl. It's honestly very interesting at how they almost made them polar opposites, but it just works. And speaking of polar opposites, I think that's my initial point as to why I think the Robert and Invisigal romance works better than the Blonde Blazer one. And this is not a critique on Blonde Blazer's romance path at all. I think that's an awesome path, but I'm just making this video to say why I think Invisigal ultimately. I'm coming in Invisigal's defense. Wait, what the? Oh wait, that came out wrong. I'm coming to Invisigal's defense. I think. Oh my god. We're already off to a bad start with this defense. Oh my god. Oh, okay. Ultimately, when it comes down to Invisigal, I find that she's the perfect opposition to our protagonist Robert, and I know that's the cliche answer, oh, opposites attract, whatever, but when it comes down ultimately to the theme of Dispatch that nobody is beyond redemption, I think that's perfect when it comes to Invisigal. We see throughout the story she's fighting between this battle that she does not think she will ever be destined to be a hero, so she keeps going back to her villain roots because that's all she thinks she's good for. But Robert knows this as well. He once was Mecha Man and thought that's all he could be because he's going out to live his father's legacy and his grandparents' legacy, the generational curse and blessing that he is Mecha Man. But when it's all stripped away from him, he doesn't really know what his worth is, but he still finds it that no matter what, he can always do good. Even if he's not in the suit, he can always be a hero. And I know it's kind of weird because ultimately you can have a different type of Robert depending on how you play the game, but I guess this is more so how I play it and how you kind of feel the game pushing you to head towards. And I find that both their stories align perfectly in that Robert's trying to find the redemption within himself and how to be a hero that's not in a suit, and he's also finding the redemption within Invisigal to not just be the villain that she thinks she is, but that she can also be a good hero that is capable of saving and protecting people, including herself. And I know it's a very hard path to go because Invisigal does some absurd things and some ridiculous things throughout the game that make you almost want to that will make you fucking crash out instantly, and I know it turned people off to her immediately. But when you get beyond the surface and you truly see Invisigal for who she is, I think you find something very sweet. I almost found it endearing that when you're used to media, usually it's the man chasing the woman in media, especially when it's a type of comical story like this one is. But I thought it was really sweet in the story. Invisigal was almost the one chasing Robert, and I found that really sweet and endearing in a sense that you have a story where the female is almost looking for the love and connection with the protagonist, where usually it's the opposite end where we see the protagonist chasing a particular love interest throughout the entire plot. When the male is the protagonist of the story, I should specify, it's almost the reverse of that dynamic. She wants love, she wants appreciation, and she for some reason sees it in Robert. And I know a lot of people say that's only because of the dream she has in episode 4, but I think it's beyond that. You can almost see the fascination she has with him initially and the love she has for him. The little to small to big gestures she ends up doing for Robert throughout the game, you can almost see it build up how much she does really care for him. And whilst cliche, I suppose some would say, I guess it's just a type of relationship, at least in video game media, that I haven't seen. And I would even say television and movies at the moment that I haven't seen that dynamic. So I did find it refreshing, I suppose, and just enjoy that dynamic. I think it's a really sweet and endearing relationship that's built as comparison to the Blonde Blazer one, which is the definitive relationship where, you know, it's kind of love at first sight and it just builds very easily. It's the one that develops almost instantly. Invisigal is a slow burn, but I almost appreciate that slow burn because it's a slow built love and it's the most entertaining one to see. And I guess that's how I play Telltale style games or ad hoc style games. I don't know. That's a way I play these Telltale to choice based games, which is I try to create the most entertaining story, what I in my head feel would be the most canon, most cinematic. I'm not trying to be out here creating a soap opera, but you kind of get what I'm saying. I like creating the most interesting love story, interesting arc for the character, and I think Invisigal leads to that in flying colors, to be honest. I'm basically Kojima, to be honest. But I highly recommend, if you haven't already, go back and play through the Invisigal pathline and you will see a beautiful story, to be honest. Especially too, if you do what I did. If you want to know what I specifically did, is I started Blonde Blazer and then it switched towards Invisigal towards the midpoint. I created a little bit of drama there. I'm telling you, like, the arcs I was making. No, but for real, I highly recommend going and playing it in that way, and you will see that just the story feels so much more linear. It feels more pushing to this particular theme and this plot, and it just works. Trust me, try doing it with Invisigal and you will see the difference. And I don't know if it's sort of just what your first playthrough is that's in your head always going to be the one that is canon to yourself, but again, I just highly recommend trying it and see. Just check it out, try it. If you enjoy the game, just do it. Just really want to emphasize, at the end of the day, the game has the emphasis on themes that nobody is beyond redemption, and especially with the Phoenix program being about rehabilitating villains, which I feel like a lot of people forget when they finish the game, is we're working with super villains. We're dealing with some of the worst to some of the most minimal super villains, but everybody deserves that equal treatment of redemption. And it just feels that way, and I know a lot of people say they feel as though the Invisigal one is forced and shoved down the throat by the creators, but you have to understand, ultimately, they were creating a story to be centered around a man who has to learn that everybody is not beyond redemption. Everybody is privileged to get the redemption, even your deepest enemies. And Robert ultimately coming to find that he loves the person he initially was having the most problems with within the Phoenix program and the Z team, I find just adds that, you know, that sweet little bow on it all and the nice little perfect ending. I guess I just really like that arc of seeing that Robert can see the beauty in everyone and have that level of forgiveness for everybody throughout the story. I think that's a great character arc for Robert and a great personality trait of the character of Robertson and Dispatch. So, but that starts to get into some of the other choices about whether you kill certain people in the story or whether you forgive other supervillains in the story. But ultimately, the way I was playing it, I was being a little baby and forgiving everybody I know. But it's a feel-good story in that way. Like, and that's why I say I just highly recommend checking out that version of the story if you did do different routes. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because I know a lot of people are discussing what they think are the canon interpretations, because if there ever is going to be a season 2 of Dispatch or a part 2 of Dispatch, we have a peculiar situation, which is, do they choose a canon route? Do they extend the choices in the second game and bring back some of your choices that you made in the previous game? It's kind of hard to say what angle they will go, but ultimately, if they are going to choose a canon ending like games have done, such as Deus Ex, then you have previous Telltale games, such as The Walking Dead or the Batman Telltale series. They just started pulling some of your choices, but they never led to anything of significance. It's almost as if they usually retcon what happened in the prior season, or they just try to forget what entirely happened in the last season, and that's why a lot of people end up getting frustrated when these games expand to part 2s and part 3s and season 2s and 3s, because you end up diminishing all the previous choices you made, because you got to start eliminating some choices because it just gets way too convoluted when you start extending some of these branching paths into sequels. So I'm curious what you all think when it comes down to what they are going to do with the sequel for Dispatch, because it really looks like we're heading there, because they are happy with the reception of this game. Ad Hoc Studios is, as if they ever work on a Dispatch 2 or create a part 2 sequel, season 2, I do truly hope they bring the players' decisions from the previous game into the new game, because that would ultimately suck so bad if we left these characters because we had to focus on other characters to now not branch out the story paths too much, because I really want to stick with the Z team and the Phoenix program of these specific heroes and villains, and I want to see the story develop further. But it is a little worrying because it does, like I said, get hard when the games start to extend and the choices extend with every iteration. So there it is, final video of 2025 Dispatch, my game of the year to end it off. What better way to end it? It's been a phenomenal almost half year that I've been doing this YouTube channel, and it's all because of y'all. I want to know, what did you think of Dispatch? What a poetic way to end it off. And oh man, I want a season 2 so bad. Ad Hoc Studios, please make a season 2. Please.